The twin suns of the Syraxis system glowed softly behind a curtain of blue mist. Their light touched the silver surface of the human ship as it moved slowly through orbit. The ship was quiet from the outside, but inside, every system was awake. Every scanner was active. Every second was being measured. Inside the command room stood Commander Elias Vance, tall, calm, focused. His eyes moved over the alien terrain on the screen in front of him. He had been to many planets. He had seen many kinds of life, but nothing felt like this. This mission was different. Earth had sent him to stop a war between two powerful alien empires. The Lemurians and the Xanthari. They were not just enemies. They were ancient rivals. For centuries, they had fought over planets, technology, and power. Now they stood on the edge of full destruction. And Elias Vance was Earth's last hope. To bring peace. But there was something else. Something no one on Earth knew. Something he had not told Command. Since entering the system, he had felt something strange, a pressure. A voice inside his thoughts. It was soft but real. As if someone, or something, was calling him. Not with words, but with feeling. The ship landed on neutral ground. A platform made of dark crystal. All around it, sharp towers rose into the sky. The meeting place was chosen by both empires. No weapons allowed, no guards. Only peace. As Elias stepped out of his ship, two beings were already waiting. The first was Queen Thalara of the Lemurians. She stood tall and silent. Her skin shimmered like water under moonlight. Her eyes were silver, calm, and deep. She moved like a queen born of starlight. When she spoke, her voice was soft and measured. The second was Queen Zira of the Xanthari. Her presence was fire. Her armor was sharp. Her eyes burned with red light. She smiled with a sharp edge. Her voice carried danger, but also charm. She was not calm. She was wild. And she watched Elias like a hunter watches a prize. Elias greeted them both with respect. He used simple words. Careful tone, but inside, his thoughts raced. These were not normal leaders. These were powerful minds. Minds that had seen thousands of years. Minds that did not forget betrayal. Minds that could destroy. They entered the glass dome where the first talks would begin. The air was warm. The seats were placed in a triangle. No side above the other. Elias sat between them. The first few minutes were cold, formal. Each queen spoke of peace, but their eyes told another story. They watched each other. They measured every word. They were not ready to trust. Then Elias began to speak. He did not talk about power or politics. He spoke of life, of the future, of the cost of war. His voice was calm. His words were real. He did not speak like a soldier. He spoke like a human, like someone who had seen death and wanted to stop it. For a moment, both queens were quiet. Then something happened. Queen Thalara offered him a gift, a small orb, smooth and blue. She called it a memory crystal. She said it held the stories of her people. She wanted him to understand who they were, not just as rulers, but as beings who felt, who dreamed. Queen Zira laughed. Her voice echoed in the dome. She stepped close to Elias and placed something in his hand. A flame stone from her home world, a symbol of passion and courage. She leaned closer and whispered something in a language unknown to Earth. Elias felt his heartbeat change. Later that night, back on his ship, Elias sat alone. The memory crystal glowed softly. He held it in his palm. Images appeared in the air. Stories of light, love, pain, victory. But then, something strange happened. A vision appeared. It showed him standing between the two queens. He wore alien robes, and behind him a planet burned. Elias pulled back. This was not just diplomacy. This was something deeper. He was not just a visitor. He was part of something larger. A message blinked on his screen. No name, just a location. A private place. Outside the dome. A meeting, and a single line. Come alone. I want to show you something real. Elias stared at the words. He did not know which queen sent it. He did not know if it was a trap or something else. But he knew one thing. This mission had just changed, and someone was playing a very different game. Asterisk. The night sky above the Syraxis platform looked still, but something inside it was moving. Silent signals passed between distant ships. Invisible eyes stayed fixed on one man. Commander Elias Vance stood near the edge of the platform, alone. Behind him, the glass dome still shimmered with diplomatic light, but his attention was on the message he had received earlier, a location, a request. No signature. He had decided to go. Every step toward the dark corridor felt like walking into a question. He carried no weapon, only a translator device and a small flashlight. The air grew colder as he entered the side tunnel. Walls of black stone surrounded him. This place was not part of the official meeting grounds. A figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Queen Zira. She looked different here. No guards, no fire armor, just a long coat and soft boots. Her eyes still burned, but her voice had changed. It was quiet now. She told Elias that diplomacy was only a mask, that real decisions were made in moments like this, away from cameras and protocol. She walked beside him. Her words were smooth, like a song with meaning hidden between the notes. She spoke of her world, of the future she imagined. She did not speak of war. She spoke of him. He listened carefully. Then she stopped walking. Zira turned and faced him. She placed her hand on his chest and asked him a question. Not about Earth, not about politics. She asked if he believed in destiny. Elias did not answer. He only looked at her, trying to understand what game she was playing. She smiled, then stepped back and vanished into the dark. Elias stood alone once more. He returned to his ship with more questions than answers. The memory crystal from Queen Thalara still sat on his desk. Its soft blue light blinked slowly. He picked it up and placed it in the viewer again. New images appeared. This time, it showed Thalara as a child walking through golden fields. Her face looked calm. She was not a queen here. She was just someone dreaming. Then the image shifted. It showed her climbing the throne, watching her people fight. Her eyes held sadness. A soft voice began to play. It was her voice. She spoke of loneliness, of choices she had to make, of things she lost to become the leader she is now. Elias felt something shift inside him. Both queens had opened doors to him. One with fire, the other with memory. Later, as he tried to sleep, strange visions came. He saw stars falling. He saw himself standing in a grand hall with two shadows behind him. A voice whispered his name, but it was layered, as if two people were speaking at once. He woke suddenly. The translator device on his desk lit up with a new message. This time, it was from Queen Thalara. She invited him to her ship. She said she wanted to show him something important. No formal guards, no media, just a quiet visit. Elias hesitated, then replied with one word, yes. The Lumerian ship was a work of beauty. It looked like it was grown, not built. Curves of white stone and flowing silver lined every wall. As Elias walked through it, soft lights followed him, guiding his path. Thalara greeted him in a quiet chamber. No throne, no crown. She offered him tea made from starlight plants. Its taste was strange, but gentle. She asked him if he felt out of place here. He nodded. She showed him a painting carved into the wall. It showed a human and an alien holding a single seed between them. She said it was made long before humans even knew space travel. A prophecy, she claimed. A warning. Elias listened. Then she stepped closer. She told him she believed he was that human, that his arrival was not random, that something deep in the universe had pulled him here for a reason. He asked her what she wanted. She paused, then answered, "Not power. Not war, just a chance. A chance to build something new, something that never existed before." As Elias returned to his ship, his heart beat faster. The stars outside looked closer now. The air inside the ship felt heavier. Two queens had shown him pieces of their soul. Two leaders, both offering more than peace. Behind their power, there was something personal. Something human. And deep in his mind, he began to wonder, was this mission ever about stopping a war, or had it always been about something else? The next morning, he woke up to find a gift left at his ship's door. No guards were seen. No cameras caught it. It was a folded cloth. Inside it, a single phrase was stitched in alien writing. "He does not yet know which queen truly sees him." Elias stared at the words. The game had changed again. The stars above Syraxis no longer felt distant. They seemed like eyes watching everything unfold. Commander Elias Vance stood at the center of something he never asked for, yet could no longer escape. Two alien queens had opened their worlds to him, but now they wanted something more. He tried to stay neutral. He was a diplomat, not a prize. But each day, the lines between duty and desire became harder to see. Queen Zira acted first. She sent a message at sunrise. No words, only an image. A large hall on her ship. An open seat beside her throne. A silent invitation. Elias accepted. When he stepped into the Xanthari ship, it felt like entering the core of a storm. The walls pulsed with heat. Lights flickered like fire trapped behind crystal. Music echoed from deep inside the metal, slow and hypnotic. Queen Zira sat on a throne shaped like a beast. She looked fierce and unshaken. But when she saw Elias, something softened in her expression. She stood and walked down the steps, then handed him a long staff made from dark wood and silver metal. She said it belonged to the first human who had ever stepped on Xanthari land, long before peace or politics. She said that human was hunted, but not broken. She told Elias she saw the same fire in him. Then she danced. Not for a crowd, not for tradition, but for him. Every move was wild yet controlled. She never broke eye contact. The message was clear. She did not want an ally. She wanted something closer. Later, as Elias walked the glowing corridors alone, a Xanthari guard whispered something into his ear. The words were quick, but sharp. They said the queen had never danced before, not even for her own people. Elias did not answer. He returned to his ship with the staff in hand, his mind full of questions. The next day, Queen Talara made her move. She sent a transport drone to pick him up. No lights, no escort. Just silence. When Elias entered the Lumerian ship again, it looked different. The walls now displayed images from Earth. Cities, oceans, books. Even music played softly from hidden speakers. She had studied him. Talara welcomed him in a room filled with stars, projected all around them. She said this was a map of all the known worlds. Then she erased all the stars with a wave of her hand and asked him a question. What would he choose if power was not the goal? Elias stayed quiet. She walked beside him and told him stories of her past. She once loved someone from another world. That person died because of war. She never opened her heart again. But now she wondered if fate had given her a second chance. She placed a ring in his hand. It looked like ice, but it was warm. She said it could store memory, thought, even emotion. She said it was hers now, but could become his. That night, back in his ship, Elias stared at the two gifts. The staff of fire from Zira, the ring of memory from Talara. Then, something strange happened. His ship lights flickered. The room temperature dropped. The translator device activated by itself. A voice came through, calm and without emotion. It said one sentence. He is not safe anymore. Elias grabbed his weapon and moved toward the control panel. But there was no sign of breach, no ship nearby. No source of the message. He opened the ring, hoping to understand. Instead, he saw flashes of memory that were not his, a war, a death, a promise whispered in the dark. The face of a queen holding someone close and letting go. He dropped the ring. A sharp pain hit his head. Then everything stopped. He woke up minutes later. A small burn marked the side of his hand. Not deep, but enough to leave a scar. And next to him, someone had placed a new note. Again, no trace of who delivered it. This time, it said not both are honest. Only one seeks peace. Choose wrong, and the galaxy will burn. Elias stood in silence. This was no longer just about love. This was a test, a trap. A hidden war fought with gifts, memories, and emotions. He was no longer just speaking for Earth. He was being pulled into something far older than diplomacy. And deep in the stars, something waited for his choice. The night inside the ship felt heavier than usual. Commander Elias Vance walked through the silent hallway, the lights dimmed and slow. His mind was not calm. It carried too many voices. Two queens had touched his thoughts, his heart, and maybe even something deeper. Now he could not tell what was real and what was planted. The scar on his hand itched again. It reminded him of the warning. One of them seeks peace. The other hides war behind beauty. But which one was which? The translator device blinked again. No sound, just a single message. Go below deck. Find room 9. Trust only the voice you cannot. Here he didn't know who sent it. He didn't know what it meant. But his instincts pulled him toward the door. Room 9 was locked. His hand moved over the scanner, and the door slid open. Inside was nothing. No bed, no light. Only a small circle in the floor, and a cube sitting at its center. He picked up the cube. It lit up with a single image. A woman, not human, not fully alien either. She introduced herself as Aura, a forgotten AI created during the first contact. Wars, hidden, buried, now awakened. She had been watching. Her voice was cold, but not cruel. She told Elias that the queens were not alone in this game. That someone else had placed him here. That the battle between Thalara and Zira was not about politics or love. It was about control of something ancient. Elias asked what made him so important. He was just a diplomat. A man with a mission. Aura told him he was not just chosen. He was designed. Born with something in his mind that could unlock or destroy. The queens knew it. One wanted to protect it. The other wanted to use it. The AI offered to show him memory files, but warned him they came with a cost. Pain. Confusion. Loss of clear thought. Elias agreed. The cube projected light straight into his eyes. He saw pieces of himself as a child, learning things no Earth school ever taught. He saw flashes of alien symbols, of dreams planted in him since birth. He saw his parents speaking in hushed tones. He saw government agents hiding files. His past was a lie. He dropped the cube and held his head. The ship spun around him. The room shifted. For a moment, he felt someone else inside his mind, watching, breathing. Then everything went silent. Aura spoke again. She told him to choose soon. The longer he waited, the more he would lose himself. She warned that the queens were moving closer, one out of fear, the other out of hunger. Elias left the room in silence. Outside, the stars looked colder than before. The next day, Queen Thalara invited him again. This time, not to her ship, but to a garden hidden under the meeting dome. A place only few had ever entered. The garden was glowing, trees of light, flowers that hummed softly. She walked with him, slowly, like time had slowed down just for them. She asked him about the dreams. She said she could feel his mind shifting. He asked her directly if she knew what he was. She said yes, but she said it with sorrow, not pride. She told him she once loved a being like him. Half human, half designed. That being was destroyed in war. She had seen it all before. He asked her if she wanted to use him. She looked at him, not with power, but with pain. She said no. She only wanted the war to end. Even if it meant losing him to someone else. That night, Zira called for him, not in words. In a vision, he saw her standing in fire, her arms open, her eyes wet. She asked him why he ran from what he truly was. She told him that strength was not in peace, it was in control. In knowing your place in the storm and choosing to lead it. Elias woke up with both hands shaking. 2 queens, 2 truths. One storm inside his chest. He looked in the mirror and did not see a diplomat. He saw a question waiting to be answered. A sound came from behind him. A whisper, soft and close. But when he turned, no one was there. Only the memory crystal glowing again, showing a new message he never played. The voice said 1 queen will kneel, 1 will burn. And only your choice will decide who becomes legend and who becomes forgotten. Elias closed his eyes, and the dark whispered his name again. The sun of Syraxis rose slower than usual that day. Its red light painted the metal walls of Elias's ship in long, strange shadows. Everything felt heavier. The silence inside his cabin was no longer peaceful. It was thick. It was watching him. A countdown had started. The message from the Galactic Council was clear. A decision had to be made in the next 24 hours. Either the human diplomat would back Queen Thalara, the mind of peace, or Queen Zira, the flame of control. His choice would decide which queen ruled, which empire thrived, and which future survived. Elias stood near the observation glass, arms crossed, mind spinning. He was not a soldier, but the weight on his shoulders felt like a weapon. He came to avoid war. Instead, he had become the reason war would or would not happen. He received a signal. It was Lara. No message. No voice. Just an image of a small white flower placed on a stone bench, the same bench where she once sat as a child in her memory crystal. A silent request. A quiet hope. A few minutes later, another signal came, this time from XY Ray. No symbol. No code. Only a live feed from her throne room, empty, dark, but waiting. And at the center, 2 chairs, one larger than the other, both carved from meteor stone. The message was louder than words. She did not wait. She dared him to arrive. Elias stepped away from the glass. He sat at the center of the room and placed the staff from Zira on one side and the memory ring from Thalara on the other. 2 paths, 2 powers, 2 promises. He activated the ship's AI and asked for a simulation. What would happen if war broke out? The system played images faster than the eye could follow. Cities burning, ships falling, entire star systems torn apart. The death count rose past numbers Elias could even speak. Then he asked a second question. What would happen if he chose peace? The simulation showed hesitation. Slow trust, struggle, but in time unity, new trade routes, shared technology. A council where both queens ruled side by side. Less glory, more survival. He left the room. The hallways were darker than before. Either the ship was changing or his eyes were. He passed through the docking bay and activated the travel pod. It could only take him to 1 queen. He had to choose the coordinates. Pause. Then press the screen. The ship moved silently through the mist. No words spoken, no sound but the pulse of his heart. When the door opened, a figure stood waiting. It was Thalara. She did not smile. She did not speak. She only looked at him as if she already knew. Elias walked with her to a quiet chamber under the crystal dome. No throne. No guards. Just soft light and a floor made of living glass. Stars floated below their feet like a moving sea. She asked him nothing. He spoke first. He told her he had seen the war before it started. He had felt the cost. He could not stop it with weapons or commands. But he could stop it with choice. He said her name, and she breathed for the first time in what felt like years. But the moment broke. Scream echoed through the sky. Zyra's ship had moved. It floated above the neutral zone, wings spread wide. Weapons powering up. Her voice came through the air like thunder, full of fire, full of betrayal. She had waited. And she had lost. She called Elias a traitor. She demanded he leave the Lumerian grounds. She warned him this was the end of all peace talks. Thalara stepped forward. She offered Zyra a final word, a chance to walk away, to save face, to let pride bend. But Zyra refused. She promised one thing. If she could not have Elias, then no one would. And her ship began to charge. Thalara looked at Elias, waiting for only one command. He stepped forward, placed the memory ring on his finger, and raised his hand toward the stars. The command was given. Shield rose from the ground, surrounding the platform in a dome of energy. Missiles hit. Light filled the sky, but no one died. The Lumerian defense held. Zyra screamed into the void. Her ship pulled back. She vanished into the cold part of the system, swallowed by stars and silence. Elias stood still. He had chosen, but peace came with a price. The system of Syraxis fell silent after the attack. No new broadcasts, no calls, no movements in the skies. But silence in war never means peace. It means waiting. It means watching. And Queen Zyra was still out there. Elias remained inside the Lumerian base. The damage was minor. The shield had held. But his hands still shook, not from fear, but from something deeper. He had made his choice. He had chosen Thalara. And now, every empire, every eye would see him as hers. Thalara stood calm. Her voice soft. She spoke to her people through crystal channels. She told them that peace was not given, it was built. She did not name Zyra. She did not mention the attack. But her message was clear. They would not strike unless pushed, but Elias saw something behind her eyes. A storm. She feared what was coming that night. Elias walked alone in the lower halls of the dome. The glass under his feet lit up with each step. He reached the memory chamber and stood before the glowing walls. He placed the ring on the central stone and watched it project. New images. These were not from Thalara. They showed Zyra's world cities carved into volcanic rock. Children, training with weapons and hand a throne, surrounded by ash and a girl. Young, eyes full of light. Standing alone in the dark, he stepped back. Then a sound filled the room, not a recording alive. Voice. Zyra had broken into the Lumerian system feed. Her voice came through every wall, every device. She did not scream this time. She spoke slow, quiet, and clear. She said Elias had misunderstood her. She said power was not her desire, it was survival. She told him that long before the Lemurians offered peace, her people offered loyalty, and they were slaughtered. She said he was not the first human she had cared for, but he would be the last. The signal cut moments later. Alarms screamed through the base. A ship had entered orbit. Not Zentharian design. No flags, no signal codes, only heat. A secret third force had arrived. Elias ran to the command room. Thalara stood in the center, surrounded by generals and advisors. They did not recognize the ship. It carried Zenthari weapons, but Lumerian shielding. Something was wrong. Elias remembered. Oh, you are the hidden AI that had warned him before he activated the cube again, and asked one question. Who controls that ship? Ore answered in one word. Neither. The ship fired. No warning, no demand. The dome shook. Walls cracked. Energy flared. This was not a war of queens anymore. This was something older. Hidden hands moving pieces across the stars. Elias took control of the ship's defense codes. He launched drones toward the unknown attacker. But the ship dodged each strike like it had seen the future. Thala ordered a retreat to the inner core. Elias stayed. He had one plan. He accessed the ring, used it to send a coded pulse through the crystal network. A direct message to Zyra. No words, only feeling, only a call for help. Seconds later, a shadow ripped through space. Zyra's flagship arrived. No threats, no fire. She landed beside the dome, her ship still smoking from battle. She stepped out alone. Elias met her. At the edge of the landing pad, neither spoke. She looked at him with no crown, no armor. Just eyes full of something almost human. She asked one question. "Do you still believe I want to destroy her?" Elias did not answer. She walked past him and into the fire. For the first time, the two queens stood side by side, not as enemies, not yet as allies, but as survivors of something larger together. They focused power at the rogue ship energy. Waves collided, the sky split open, the attacker cracked its hull, broke apart from inside. Something fell out, a small sphere glowing green. Elias picked it up the moment his skin touched it. Visions struck Earth bases, alien labs, a plan years in the making. Humans were never neutral. They had sent Elias to test loyalty, not make peace, not unite worlds, but to divide them. Thalara reached out and held his hand. Sira stepped back, her face changed, not in anger, but in betrayal. Elias dropped the sphere and walked away from both queens. For the first time he questioned not them, but himself. Smoke still hung in the air above the broken dome. Fires glowed across the horizon, like red memories refusing to fade. The rogue ship had fallen, but the damage it left behind could not be undone. Elias stood between two queens behind him, silence ahead. Two paths. Thalara stood tall, her robes torn, her crown missing. Her eyes held no victory, only sorrow. Sira leaned against a pillar, her shoulder bleeding, her breathing sharp. She looked at him not with fire, but with a question. They had saved each other, but trust once cracked cannot be made whole by survival. Elias said nothing. He walked through the wreckage alone, every step echoed with voices he could not silence. The AI had revealed too much. Earth had used him, was never meant to be a diplomat. He was a device, a trigger placed between two worlds to test their reaction. He stopped near the edge of the platform and looked out into space for a long time. No one followed. Then Thalara came. She stood beside him in quiet. She asked if he believed in fate. He answered no, he believed in choice. She nodded and stepped back. Later, Zira found him in the control room. She asked why he called her during the attack. He said because he believed she would come. She smiled without pride and told him he was the only thing she ever followed, without knowing why. Elias turned to face her and asked what she would do now. She said she would leave, not to retreat, but to begin again, far from empires, far from crowns. He asked if she would return. She said only if he asked. She walked away with no guards. No ship followed her, only silence. The next day, Thalara stood before the Lumerian Council. She refused the crown. She passed it to her sister. She said the world needed balance, not bloodlines, and she stepped away. No throne waited for her, only a future of her own choosing. Elias was offered a place in both empires. He refused both. He had seen what power did to love, what duty did to honesty. He chose a third path, unknown and written. 1 month later, a small ship left Syraxis. No banners, no destination filed inside it. Elias sat beside a familiar figure, not Thalara, not Zyra, but oh, who are the AI? Now carried in a device shaped like a heart. He had questions no human could answer, and she had truths no queen could hide. As the stars opened before them, Elias placed the memory ring on the dashboard. He placed the fire staff beside Ith, looked at them both and said goodbye. One queen had offered him peace, the other had offered him fire, but in the end, chose neither. He chose himself, and the galaxy watched as the man they once called the key vanished into the dark, not as a weapon, not as a prize, but as a whisper no war could claim.